Good morning. Welcome to the Rapid City Planning Commission meeting for April 6th, 2023. If any member of the audience wishes to speak to an item on the Planning Commission agenda, there are speaker request forms on the table along the left wall. Please fill out the request with the agenda number of the item you wish to speak to and hand it to the staff seated on the left of the dais. At this time, we would also like to ask that if any member of the audience has a cell phone or other electronic device, that you either turn it off or turn the ringer to silent. If you need to take a call, please step out to the hallway so the meeting is not disrupted. Items 1 through 7 have been placed on the consent calendar today and may be approved as a group. Action will be taken on all consent items in accordance with staff's recommendation by a single vote. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar by any planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member for separate consideration. The findings of this planning commission are recommendations to the city council. The city council will make the final decision with the exception of the following items. Item 5, 23 UR 006, item 6, 23 UR 007, and item 7, 23 UR 008. The Rapid City Planning Commission's actions on these items is final unless any party appeals that decision to the Rapid City Council. All appeals must be submitted in writing to the Department of Community Development by close of business on the 7th full calendar day following action by the Planning Commission. Are there any items 1 through 7 that staff would like removed?
Item number 6, please.
Okay. And are there any items 1 through 7 that Planning Commissioner would like removed for separate consideration? And are there any other items 1 through 7 that any audience member would like removed for separate consideration at this time? The chair would then entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar, items 1 through 7 in accordance with staff's recommendation with the exception of item 6, which we will hear separately. All right, Mike Gallagher made the motion to approve and Karen seconded that motion. That's items 1 through 5 and number 7. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6.
Good morning, Planning Commission. 23 UR 007, conditional use permit to allow an oversized garage located at 2602 Mountain Meadow Road. Here's the property. The site is 0.9 of an acre in size and zoned low-density residential, as you can see here. Future land use identifies the property as low-density neighborhood. The major street plan identifies Mountain Meadow Road as a local street. Here's the site plan. The proposed detached garage is 30 by 32 or 960 square feet in size. The single-family residence on site has an existing attached garage of 576 square feet, bringing the total garage square feet on site to 1,536 square feet. A conditional use permit is required when the total garage space exceeds 1,500 square feet on site. Staff would like to note the application was triggered for 36 square feet of oversized garage. Here are the elevations of the proposed garage. As you can see, the garage exceeds the maximum 15 feet of height allowed for a detached garage. The zoning exception to allow a detached garage of 18 feet in height was approved by staff due to the applicant regrading his yard and bringing the garage down to have a roof line that matches the existing single-family garage's roof line. The proposed garage will be constructed with metal siding and a metal roof. As you can see from the elevations, the material will not match the existing house. Here's the existing house. You can see they got shingle roofs, siding. Here's where they are proposing to put the garage. They're going to regrade some of this and bring the garage down. Planning Commission has previously approved oversized garage when 3 criteria is being met. They are the oversized garage is recessed from the principal structure, buffering of the oversized garage is provided with landscape or terrain, and the exterior material of the oversized garage matches the existing principal structure. The applicant has recessed the oversized garage behind the principal structure and provided buffering by not removing the existing trees along the western property line, as you can see here. The exterior material, however, does not match. Staff recommends approval of oversized garage with stipulation that the applicant revises building material of oversized garage to match existing principal before building permit approval. Neighborhood opposition was received and included. The applicant and I are in the audience for questions. Thanks.
Thank you. I do have a speaker request form from Tyler Davis on this. Before we go to that, are there questions for staff? Then I'll call Tyler Davis. Once you're up at the microphone, just identify yourself for us.
Okay. So I'm Tyler Davis, I'm owner of the property. So I kind of changed some stuff around. I could just okay. So
it's not on that. Just use the keyboard on that.
keyboard. Okay. So I was just going to start by showing some pictures of some neighboring houses. I took a quick drive down the road last night just to get some visuals of some other houses around the neighborhood, just for a little perspective. So all these are within probably half mile, 3/4 mile of my residence. As you can see from some of these, they're unmaintained. They're literally rotting off of their residences. There's trailer houses. I know the concern is the material don't match the house. I would be going from aluminum to steel, which to some would be a generational upgrade. And the fact that there's trailer houses in the same subdivision, it's not like we're in $1 million area. And then this one, I actually kind of want to point out because this is fairly close to where we are, and that is a lap-sided house with a steel-sided, steel-roofed garage. As you can see, that is a newer garage that is basically exactly what I'm proposing. And then again, there's several other garages that are not very well maintained. And then, like this one, it's another trailer house with a detached garage that does not match in color. So, I guess I'm just mainly here to talk more about the opposition on the material choice. And there's a lot more benefits to going to the steel material versus aluminum. It's heavier, it's more durable, the longevity of it far outweighs the cons behind it. So this proposed building was engineered to meet the 2018 IBC code using the heavier 28 gauge premium ProRib steel, which is the heavier. I mean, it's got the impact rating of a class 4. It's got a better fire rating, a class A fire rating on the steel, which for a garage I think would be preferred, just to keep the spread of fire down if something did happen, because there are so many trees in this development. So where there is a slight cosmetic disadvantage to going steel, looking at neighboring houses in the area, you can clearly see that there's some that just flat out aren't maintained at all. And we're requesting to build a brand new structure with premium grade steel material. And to add on to it, we're also going to be adding a wainscot for a little more of that curb appeal. The roof colors, yes, it's instead of going shingles, I was looking at steel on that as well, just because of the lifetime expectancy of steel versus a shingle. You'll double the length of your lifespan.
I learned the hard way.
There was an opposition saying that this would decrease the value of the neighborhood by going a steel-sided building, which, I don't know, based on the research I've done, there's actually claims that say it can increase the value of a property going steel just because of the durability and longevity of it and the low maintenance. And based on some of the other neighboring houses, you can see that the maintenance aspect hasn't really been abided by either. Again, I'm just trying to build a new structure in an area that will blend in with what's going on. We have tree lines on all 4 sides of the property. To help cover it, we're digging it down to help hide the elevation changes. We're trying to make it blend and make it less noticeable. And going with a burnished slate roof color, we thought that would match a charcoal colored shingle pretty close as well. So a couple things we could look at for keeping the steel material was they do have a standing seam steel panel, which instead of your traditional rib style panel, it's just a straight seam that just gives it a different cosmetic appeal to it, which that would also hide the fastener so you won't have all the screws showing externally. And then I saw kind of some concerns about the vertical rib pattern on the siding. If that's the case, we can flip those steel panels horizontally, and that would fix that issue, which I prefer not doing that just because it lessens your water resistance. Just because of the natural flow of water, it's gonna have to go over those ribs. But again, the fact that there has been another garage as I'm proposing built in the same neighborhood, I'm just curious and asking what they did differently. But, and again, I don't know if the size is as much the concern as the siding choice that I'm going with. But looking at these 2 structures side by side, I don't see a whole lot of difference. I mean, other than one's horizontal, one's vertical. But from a distance, you really can't tell that the material's that much different. Other than that, I appreciate your time and consideration. If you have any questions for me, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. We may have a couple questions for you, Mr. Davis, so we'll call you up if need be. Vicky?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So first, I just wanted to note that these properties were annexed in 1978. This was developed out in Pennington County. That's why you see a lot of what we would deem as substandard development within this area. Many of the mobile homes, many of the older dilapidated buildings, those were all constructed under county design regulations. Once annexed, then everything must meet city standards. And that is our goal upon annexation, is to ensure that we do have those improved design standards. There are other garages in the area that may not have similar materials and colors as the home, but those don't exceed 1,500 square feet. And if you don't, then you come in for a building permit and you determine what material it's going to be constructed with. As long as the height is in compliance, setbacks, lot coverage, etc., then it is the homeowner's choice. I think Alex did a good job pointing out that in this instance, they're only over by 36 feet. But because they're over, the neighbors do get to weigh in. This is a corner lot. Even with trees, it will be visible from the adjacent properties. Our goal was to point out to you, and something that we originally missed in our preliminary review, is that the siding does not match the home, and typically, in all other instances, when we're supporting an oversized garage, the materials and colors need to match the residence located on the property. I think the applicant provided you with some options today, so maybe something that all of you wanted to visit about, but we'll stand if you have any questions.
Thanks, Vicky. Mike Quasney?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I do have a question for Mr. Davis. The comment was made that this is a hobby shop versus a commercial. There was concern about that. What kind of a hobby are you looking to? I guess we can answer that question for whoever posed that.
Yes, I did respond to all those letters of opposition. I tried to address all concerns. So my hobby, I tinker on vehicles. I have a 4-post car lift. that's where the extra height came from. I have a lot of automotive equipment, which that burns up a lot of space really quick. And I have a 24 by 24 with a chimney in one stall of it, so I'm really, really cramped for room. So that's the hobby, is automotive.
Okay. So the 18-foot versus the 15-foot, you couldn't do the same with the 15-foot as you're filling?
So, yeah, the 15-foot maximum. So with these plans, that would put me at 16.5 for the mean average roof line. So I'm actually only 1.5 feet over the maximum height. And the reason for that was to get the most benefit out of my car lift. I've done a garage with a 12-foot wall in the past, and you can only lift a vehicle up 3/4 of the way. So
Okay.
it limits me.
Okay, then the color it can't be the same color as your existing home, or is that what your plan is? Is to have it?
Yes, that was the plan. It might be so I was looking at possibly doing a slightly darker color siding, just because the house needs re-sided as well. I was trying to pick the color that I can match the house with when I get to that type of deal, so I don't have to redo the brand new garage after I side the house.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Eric Heikes?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The applicant's got me all riled up with those pictures about the deferred maintenance of his neighbors. That stuff kind of makes me upset too, you know. It's no fun to see, you know, chipping paint and, you know, rotting wood on your neighbors' homes and then have them oppose your garage. So my heart goes out to you. You got a 35-foot delta, 35 square foot delta. You could bring that under the conditional use permit if you made some small adjustments, it sounds like. What about putting the same siding on your house that you're doing on the garage or the shop? Could you consider that? I mean, you've got a couple of small things to close here to get your conditional use permit, it sounds like. Would the steel roof and the siding work on your home as well? I mean, it sounds like you really aren't convinced that that's a good product. So just some ideas to throw out there for you. We're trying to get your conditional use permit here, so you've got stipulations that the staff want to make sure that are consistent. So you're almost there. You just have to close the gap. So thank you.
Well, Mr. Davis, I had one question actually. There was one of the, and perhaps I missed it in your response, one of the notes said that there was another approach added to the lot. Is that, and I think I saw it on the site plan, is that because it's a corner lot, is that approach acceptable and going to continue in use?
Well, that was added just to get some trailers, a place to park instead of parking on the street. I guess I didn't really, it was kind of a rush deal just so I can get my stuff when we were moving in end of last year. I may need to follow up and talk to someone about that to make sure I didn't cross any lines, but if I need to push that gravel back and put grass seed back down, I'm more than willing to do that. The parking space itself is planned on to stay, but yeah, what comes off of, I don't know. So yeah, that northeast corner. So yeah, I will have to follow up on that one to see.
Okay.
I didn't realize that. I've done a couple of these in the past in some other counties, and it's never really came up before. So.
Well, unfortunately, you know, what you bring up around the neighborhood, some of what you see there is either pre the city having an interest in the neighborhood or done without the city's knowledge, that kind of a thing. Vicki, maybe you could comment?
Yes, so the second approach is not legal. That would have required a permit from Public Works, and then the first 50 feet of that driveway would have to be paved. So that access point will need to be terminated, or he will need to secure a second approach and then pave the first 50 feet of it. Pave or concrete.
Which I would definitely do that.
So we would add that as a stipulation that upon submittal of a building permit, that the second approach be removed or a permit be secured and the first 50 feet be paved or concreted, one of those two.
I'm just speaking for myself here. I just want to make sure that if we're granting a conditional permit, that the rest of the lot's in congruence with our standards. I really understand what the applicant's saying about the siding product, though. I bought an old house and I've just never gotten to the point where I'm ready to re-side it. But if I were to build a new garage, I wouldn't want to match my old 1967 siding with the new structure. So that part I'm a little less tending to be stringent on. Those are my comments, though. Or any other from the commission? Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I just want to clarify, the siding that you're going to use is colored siding? It's not going to be shiny silver?
No, it'll be colored like I was going with. The siding would be a beige color, which is just slightly darker than the house currently is.
Okay.
And then a burnished slate for the wainscot and roof, which I think it's a pretty close charcoal color for the existing shingles.
Okay.
So it is fairly close to the colors.
Okay. I heard you talk about the roof. I just wasn't sure about the siding, so that's my question. Thanks.
Haven?
I guess my question, you posed the possibility of, or I guess maybe Eric did, on steel siding on the house. I'm wondering, is that allowed would that be an option? And it would seem like, that would be, that steel siding on that house, on that corner lot, would be extremely visible to all of the neighbors. And it seems like that would be objectionable. And maybe for the applicant, I understand the benefits of the steel siding, but the staff here has proposed a condition that it be sided similar to the house. Do you see that as a big issue if it was sided similar to the house? I understand you're thinking about residing the house too, but in a similar fashion to what is now on the house.
Mr. Davis?
I guess I'm not 100% sure I'm following your question.
My question is, I guess, siding the new garage similar to the house, without the steel siding, with siding more similar to what now exists on the house. Although you may want to change that, that's fine too. Is that a big problem for you?
It would add more to the cost of building in general, just because of the post frame structure. You don't have that sheathing behind the wall, like behind the exterior material. That's where the steel panels, you can lay them up really quick and easy. And the other benefit of that is you're not dragging the project out for months and months, possibly years, for someone trying to redo siding on a house. You can literally have all the siding done on it in a day. But as far as as far as just proposed structure plans, those would have to definitely change to accommodate that. So it's not impossible, but it'd be more to it. And again, if it's the horizontal thing that is a concern, we can accommodate that as well just by flipping the panels horizontal. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
And maybe this is for the staff. Just to clarify in my mind, the applicant's here today because we're 36 square feet over the maximum allowed. If it was reduced to the 1,500, then this application would not be necessary?
Mr. Chair,
Vicki?
that's correct. If this were reduced by 36 square feet, it would just be a building permit, and there's no restriction within the city that would prevent him from putting up a metal garage. And what I heard him say, when he first came to the lectern, is that instead of putting the metal ribbing vertical, he could do it horizontal. So then the lapped, it would have the look of lapped siding similar to the home. He is going to color it similar to the color he's going to make the home. I don't know what the cost is of metal siding on a house, but I would think that would be extreme. I don't know if that's the boat we want to put him in today.
And was there any talk about the roof on the garage? The metal roof would meet the requirements?
So again, in the past, you've required that if they have an asphalt roof, shingled roof on the home, that the garage have similar. And I believe what I heard him say is that he could color the roof so it would match the color of the shingles. So again, at least you're getting the color palette and the horizontal lines similar on the garage and the home. If that's a compromise that you're comfortable with, it might be one that's not too cost preventative. Making note that this is only 36 square feet over what would otherwise just be a building permit.
Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Going deep into design and construction, you're talking my language. I think you've done a good job of sort of mitigating sight lines by lowering the grade. Color matching, I think, is a really good move. Obviously, I heard you mention wainscot. I think that would be a really nice touch to sort of break up that industrial / agriculture look to a steel building. So standing seam siding is heavy gauge industrial commercial grade. That stuff is bulletproof. You're gonna have a really quality building on your hands. It's not really conducive to housing. But with products today, you can maybe go with panelized siding, like 4x8 sheets of batten board. There's all kinds of things out there now that can break up the horizontal old LP lap siding. That's not a huge deal these days. I also think that if you eliminate that back parking area, if it is non-conforming / illegal, getting rid of that would really help, kind of ease the burden on your neighbors, just to be a good steward. But overall, I think it's a good fit, and you've taken some steps to make this thing work. But aesthetically, yeah, you could maybe go a little bit further to make it a little more, homey, residential with the wainscot. I think that'd be a good option. So I'm in favor for it.
Todd?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on the discussion on the second approach. This is a private roadway, Springbrook Association, so we don't issue permits for the right-of-way work. So they wouldn't be getting one from us for that second approach.
Vicki, can I throw that one back
Yes,
to you?
thank
Where
you.
does that leave us?
So I believe these roads are owned and maintained by the homeowners association. He would need to secure an approach permit from the homeowners association. Our regulations would require, though, that the first 50 feet be paved. So the stipulation I threw out there before would still stand. It would just be that instead of getting the permit from Public Works, they would get the approach permit, the approval for the approach from the homeowners association.
Brooke?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I feel like I'm going to beat this to death, but a question for Mr. Johnson. So essentially, to get it under where we wouldn't even have this conversation today, is you would take 15 inches off the back of the building. Are you willing to consider that, or do you want us to keep moving in this?
I mean, I could shave a little bit off. It just have to get re-engineered. I mean, these plans were engineered, sealed to meet the 2018 IBC code. Again, it's definitely doable. And
So for some reason, Dave, if it's not approved, that's probably what you would do. Is that correct?
probably, I'd
Yeah.
probably just downsize it a hair.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, are you still up, or am I just seeing your microphone on?
Let me shut it off.
Oh, don't worry about it. Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a question. Is the height, if he shaves them off the side or whatever to get it down to, the right square footage, and he still wants the height, is that something that has to come through, or that would be standard?
Mr. Chair,
Vicky?
he's already secured the exception to the height, and it was granted because they're lowering the elevation. So regardless of the size, the height has already been approved.
Thank you, I do remember that, sorry. Thanks.
Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just so you understand, when we get this many letters, it makes us look a little harder. We like to try to work with homeowners that are trying to make things better, and this looks like this would be a good improvement to your area there, especially with your hobby. I think the comment about the wainscoting is a great addition to make it more homey instead of industrial. So I think if you really do that, it adds to this. And then, of course, finishing up the driveway and doing that properly, the second approach. It's always concerning, though, when we get this many letters and we want to try to make everybody in the neighborhood happy. And so then it comes back to you to make your neighbors happy. And so I would definitely not put a loud engine in the middle of the night roaring to upset your neighbors and say, we told them not to do this. So, thank you.
Eric Hikas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm not comfortable making a motion outside of staff stipulations on this one. I'm just letting you know that's what's holding me back here. My comfort level is we would follow the stipulations, which is that you would have to have a similar finish on the shop garage as to the home. That's the only thing holding me back. So I would make that motion if you'd be willing to support it, the rest of the group here, but it doesn't sound like you are. You want to do different materials, so that's where we're stuck. So just letting you know.
Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm curious to know if you're interested in some of the things that Kelly had brought up about different types of siding that's still steel, I guess, but just different look.
Yeah, I've kind of looked at a few of them. That's kind of where like that standing seam, hidden fastener siding came from. There's a lot of different options out there for siding, and I guess I don't know what the main. It's aluminum to steel. They're different, yes, but they're both metals. I don't know. I guess is the concern the horizontal layout, or I guess I don't know what the main concern is with the matching material on the siding. If it's the horizontal thing, we can definitely find something to make that happen. But yeah, there are several different options we can go with. I guess I don't know which one would make the majority happy, because someone's going to complain about all of them, I'm sure.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm not here to try to tell you how exactly to do. I mean, I'm not trying to make the house or the garage just to fit, I guess. Personally, I don't have an issue with the colors that you've chosen. As far as the siding, it might be metal, but unless I saw it, it seems like it's reasonable to me. So I'm just putting out my 2 cents. Thank you.
All right, it seems like we're struggling for a motion here as a commission. Our options are, we have suggested stipulations from staff that would match the building materials of the proposed garage to the residence. And the issue with that has been pointed out by the applicant. Vicky?
So the applicant had said that he was not adverse, that he plans on re-siding the home. And he could re-side the home similar to the siding on the garage, and then they would match. So my question, if I may, Mr. Chair, to the applicant is, what would the timeline be to re-side the home?
I guess I haven't really put a number on it, kind of one project at a time type deal, but I would hope the next couple of years to have it re-sided. It needs windows siding, it needs all of it.
So if, as the stipulation reads, the exterior building materials need to match. And you could give him a time frame of 2 years to reside the residence to match the color and building materials of the garage. Again, just another option.
We could. I'm playing devil's advocate here, though. The materials for a garage, just by strict definition of material, wouldn't be what you'd use on a house. Too many windows. That's the toughest part of this. It's same with the roof. I don't know that you'd do anything with the roof of a house. You know, when you reside, you'd probably just leave the shingles if they're in good condition. Mike Kwasny?
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Eric brought up what basically I was going to say. It's pretty hard to match what he's wanting on the steel siding to, I don't know that I'd want it on the side of that house. I think it would just really throw off the house, and I think the neighbors would have more problems with that than they. The other thing that I noted as the applicant brought in pictures of the surrounding area, there were a lot of garages that didn't match the area, and I know that the goal of the city is to bring it to what the city standards are, but again, I don't know that this is going to be a big difference. I think if the color matches and he does the things that he's with the color of the roof line and so forth, I think it's going to be just fine. With that, I'll make a motion to accept as is with the wainscoting. I don't know that that was in a stipulation. Putting the wainscoting along the bottom to do this with all the stipulations that the staff has.
So I'm going to try to make this clear in my mind. The first suggested stipulation from staff is to match exterior building materials between the residence and the garage. In lieu of that, you would say the steel materials proposed by the applicant are acceptable with a wainscoting.
With the color matching.
With the color matching.
Correct.
Okay. And would you consider adding a stipulation regarding the second approach that needs to be permitted through the homeowners association?
That would be a good stipulation to add in.
And the paving of that, if the homeowners association approves it, do we need to add the paving of it as a part of the stipulation?
Yeah, that stipulation should read, prior to submittal of a building permit, the second approach shall be removed, or approval from the homeowners association shall be obtained, and the first 50 feet of the driveway shall be paved or concreted.
Okay. Yep.
When Vicky said it, it sounded way better than
it did. She must have done this for a long time.
Yeah.
Anyhow, yes, all that.
All right. Mike Kwasny made the motion, which we then discussed. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Karen seconded the motion. Any discussion on the motion? Haven.
The way I understand the motion then is that there's some requirement of wainscoting. I guess it doesn't seem to me that that's specific enough. I'm myself in favor of the staff recommendation that the siding on the proposed garage match the siding on the house. And I don't think that metal siding on the house is is appropriate either. So I guess, as far as the motion is concerned, my question is what wainscoting requirement is there, and how can that be more specific?
Mr. Chair?
Vicky?
So the applicant would need to identify how high up from ground elevation up, the wainscoting would be provided, and what that material would consist of.
Mr. Davis, we're gonna put you on the spot here.
Okay, so that bottom wainscot will go up 3 foot. It's just a typical height of a wainscot. And I was just gonna match that to the trim and roof colors, which is typically what you'd see on a structure like this. That way, you're only bouncing with 2 different colors.
And the material of that?
It'd be the same
It would be,
premium pro rib steel.
okay, so the material, it would be the same steel material, same color as the roof? Did I catch that correctly?
To be, yeah, the slate wainscot, trim, and roof, and then a beige siding, which would be everything from the top of the wainscot to the eave.
Even I kind of jumped in on the questioning. Does that settle your, Mike, does that settle your? Okay. Karen, I have to ask you too, as the seconder.
It's fine.
All right, any other questions or comments on the motion? Everybody understand? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Can we do a roll call?
Arguello? Braun?
Aye.
Bowman? Gallagher? Hikas? Kaufman? Quasny? Stuck? I have 5-3, motion passes.
All right, thank you. Really appreciate the discussion on that one. These decisions are hard to make at times. Item number 8.
So item number 8 is a final plan development overlay to replace a communication tower at 3575 Skyline Drive. This property currently contains a small accessory building, a generator, and a fuel tank, and previously contained a 90-foot tall guide tower that was previously demolished. The property is zoned no use district. City Council has since passed second reading to rezone the property to General Agriculture District. Communication towers are conditional use in this district. The future land use of the property is light industrial. The property is accessed by Skyline Drive, which is classified as a collector street on the city's major street plan. So this is the site plan submitted. The new tower will be located on the new tower foundation pad on the center of the compound and will be in the same approximate location of the previous tower. The applicant is requesting exceptions to allow a 2.8 front yard setback, to reduce the side yard setback, and to allow the vehicle for the one parking stall proposed to back into the right of way, and is asking for an exception to allow a 6-foot tall fence in lieu of the 4 feet required. Staff is recommending that these exceptions be approved as they do not appear to cause undue hardship to the public good or impair the purpose and intent of these regulations. Additionally, a variance from City Council will be required to allow gravel access to the parking stall. This will be an 80-foot tall lattice. Oh, sorry, just to correct, the applicant is planning to pave to the parking stall. This site plan shows it gravel, so a variance will not be required. This will be an 80-foot tall lattice tower and will be used internally by Black Hills Energy. There'll be room for additional co-locators if needed in the future. On-site photos, public notice was posted on the property. This is looking north on Skyline Drive and looking south along that same street. And staff is recommending that this item be approved, subject to the stipulations outlined in the report, and I'll stand by for any questions.
I've got one. On the site plan, it looked like there was a support line that goes over the road. Am I reading that correctly? I think that OH red line. I guess I'm just wondering, is the right-of-way protected as far as?
Yeah, it looks like that is referring to an overhead line that goes across the road there.
Look at the aerial. It shows it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not even connected to the, that's totally separate.
Yeah, I believe so.
Sorry about that. Thanks,
Yeah.
Vicky. Good call.
Mr. Chair?
No questions. Vicky.
Tanner, thank you. You did a great job. They did ask for a lot of exceptions, but as you can see, this is an existing site. On many other little substations or communication facilities such as this, we do have to look at allowing them to have that security fencing. We want that access to be as close to the road as possible so they do back into the right-of-way. And I think when we look at the fact that this is not a residential area, that this truly is supported by the type of other development that exists, and this really is more industrial in nature. So as such, we are recommending that the exceptions requested be granted, and this is already an existing use on this site.
Haven?
The proposal is for an 80-foot tall tower. What is the existing tower? What's the height of the existing tower?
The existing tower is 90 feet tall, and it has since been demolished. There's a demolition permit issued in 2022 for that tower, so it'll be 10 feet less, this new tower.
Mike Kwasny?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The backing into the right-of-way, I guess as I look at this picture that's up here, the fence will require that to happen, or is there, it looks like there's room that they could move around in there. How necessary is it to back into that? Sometimes that road, now it's on occasion that road gets busy, and I don't know if there's a spot there where they're going to be backing in and causing problems. Am I looking at it, is there not room in there so that they could not have to back into the right-of-way?
Mr. Chair?
Vicky?
So this is a tight site, and what we have done on, including many city utility sites, is we do grant that exception because this site is only visited for maintenance purposes, so the amount of traffic to and from the site is extremely limited. And typically when we're looking at these utility sites, we want to minimize the pavement and circulation. We'd rather have that surface maintained in a more natural vegetative form. So it's pretty standard to allow on utility sites that backing into the right-of-way, primarily because very limited activity or traffic to the site.
And yeah, I see that quite often on those sites. I understand that. It just looked like there was room there. more room than maybe I'm thinking there is, but, thank you.
Eric Hikes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tanner, could you refresh me on the fence? Will that be a new fence? Will that be a translucent fence?
No.
No?
Yeah, that'll be a chain link fence.
Chain link?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not really gonna screen anything?
No, it won't. It's
Okay.
for security purposes.
Okay, thank you.
Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This kind of piggybacks on Eric's. The report said that the old 90-foot tower was guyed, in other words, guy wires. Is the new freestanding, the new structure freestanding totally?
That's correct. It's a self-supporting tower.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
All right, any other questions or comments on this item? Motions? All right, Mike Gallagher made the motion to approve item number 8 with the stipulations as listed. And Mike Quasney seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, at the end of the regular agenda, any staff items today for us, Vicky? Any items from the planning commission to discuss? All right. Mike Quasney made the motion to adjourn. And Karen seconded the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
That was fun.
I know.
Usually we don't have split decisions as much as
I
we
know.
did today. That's gonna.
Man, I struggled on that one. I hate trying to design things.
I know, that's
That's the
That's
only
what I was
problem that I was.
what I was trying to get out and I wrote that. But, you know, the site plan, not site plan, but the building materials and stuff wasn't online, and so I missed that color out of